By the end of this video, you will have a full stack application using many different technologies. For the backend, we will use Postgres. For the database, we will use Postgres. For a backend, we will use Go, the programming language, with Mux as a framework. And for the frontend, we will use Next.js and Tailwind using TypeScript as a language. And all the three services will be Dockerized. So at the end of this video, we will have a Docker Compose file, and we will be able to spin all the three services with just one command. All the code will be available on GitHub, no worries. Okay. We will start with a bottom-up. We'll start with a bottom-up approach. So we'll start from the database, and then the backend, and then the front end. We can start. Okay, so to start, you can choose any folder you want. For example, here I am in C/workspace. I can create a folder, mkdir go full stack go live. We step into this directory, and then we can open this in VS Code. I forgot one part. 1 second. This part is very important. One moment. I want to say something. Okay, here. Okay. The prerequisites are: you should have Docker installed on your machine, Go installed on your machine, and a basic knowledge of what an API is, what is a backend, what is a front-end, just to follow along. Okay, now let's open VS Code. Okay, nice. A moment, I see some people here. 90 minutes. Okay, let me go here and here. I think that's it. Okay, like this. Okay, a moment. Okay, first thing, let's create a Git repository. So let's type git init. And then we can also create a gitignore file. We can use the command line using touch.gitignore. And in this .gitignore file, we can add a line, which is star node modules. We don't want the node modules, in this case of the front end, in the Git repository. We can also create one file, and then we'll start creating our services. So touch compose.yaml. This is the Docker Compose file. In some older tutorials, you can see docker-compose.yml. It's the same. I prefer compose.yaml because it's the default one now. It's the default now, and it's also easier to type. So let's start with the database, and we start from here. We are in the compose.yaml file. Services. We create a service called DB. This is the same of installing Postgres on your machine. So as a container name, we'll use DB. This will be very important when we want to connect the database with the backend application. As an image, we can decide a version of Postgres. In this case, I want to use version 13, which is one of the latest ones, I think. And then as environment variable, we can do something that you should never have in production. So having as a user Postgres, as a password Postgres, and as a DB Postgres. Don't do that in production. As a port 5432 external and internal. We also need some volumes. Volumes are the way containers can have persistency, because containers are processes. Once a container is stopped or removed, it's like when you remove a program, a process. We can also define this volume here, volumes, pgdata. We have done this multiple times, but it's specific for this project too. Okay, Done. Now we need to run this container. So docker compose app -d, which stands for detached. We want our terminal to be free after this. We want our terminal to be available even after we run this command, and then db. That's it. That was fast because I already had the image on my file system. This has been fast because I already had the Postgres image on my PC. Let's do docker ps-a, and we see the database here. Let's go in this mode. I think here it's easier to see. Docker ps-a, you see here, and we can check now inside this container. We can type this command, docker exec-it, db, which is the name of the db, psql-u Postgres. This is a command to get inside the Postgres container. Here I can type \l. We see there are some databases here, and if I type \dt, I see that I don't find any relations. This database, it's up and running, but it's currently empty. So now we need to create a backend to be available to insert something inside this database. We don't want to make the inserts manually, I would say, of our users. So let's start with the backend. We'll create 2 folders, and of course for the backend we'll create a folder, in this case called backend. We step inside this folder, and then we start creating our Go application. To do this we can type, check here at the top, which folder is empty now. We can type go mod init API. We'll create a module called API, and we see here at the top now we have this file. So the Go CLI helped us to create this file. You need the Go CLI installed on your machine. Now we need to install some dependencies. How can we install dependencies in Go? There is this command that you can type, go get, and then we have this github.com/gorilla/max, and then github.com/lib/pq. This Gorilla Max is a framework, and we'll use it for parsing the JSON files, serializing the JSON files, serializing the objects, and also creating the router to hit different endpoints. And then we have the PQ, which is the driver specific for the Postgres database. Usually we have different drivers if we want to connect to other databases. If we want to connect this Go application with a MongoDB application, we need, of course, a different driver. So let's do this. Let's see what happens here. So I run this command. It took a while, probably because I'm live, but as we can see here, we have this require, and we also have another file. You see here with all the dependencies. So I really love this approach of Go. Before writing our backend, I want to create 2 more files. We'll create them in one go, pun intended. Main.go. We will create a backend in only one file, and also we'll create a file called go.dockerfile. Not capital D. Check at the top right. You see we have now a main.go file, which is empty, and a go.dockerfile. Okay? Let's go on the main.go file. And here, I don't know if you're familiar with the Go syntax, we'll start creating this package main line. And then we need to define some imports. We can have here at the top, for sure we need database SQL to connect with a SQL database, then encoding JSON, because we need to be able to parse and create JSON objects. This is how the HTTP requests they work, or they might work. Then log, because we need maybe to log some errors, and then a net HTTP, and OS stands for operating system. We will use it mostly to read environment variables. A couple more. This Gorilla Max is the framework to create all the routers, all the endpoints. And also we'll use it to read, for example, in the URL, the ID, the parameters. For example, if we want to look for the user number 2, we'll hit an endpoint that ends with 2. So we need to tell the database that we want the user that has as an ID 2 in the Postgres table, I would say. And also this PQ, I already say that this is the dependencies, this is the driver for Postgres. Okay, now we can create a struct. So we want this service to have a sort of structure. As an ID, I don't like it like this. Let's put it like this, ID int. We need an ID, which is the number of the user, then a name, which is a string, and an email. This is the model of our database. We'll have a single table with an ID that will not provide, a name and an email. That's enough. We will also not make any validation in this one. So here now we can create a main function. Of course, this is called func main. I want to close it like this. I think this is better. The first thing that I want to do is to connect to the database. I want to make a connection. And here GitHub Copilot is helping me because I can see here. I can see. I think this is. I see it better. One moment. Okay. So db error. We have this, and here we'll read this database underscore URL environment variable. After this, if we have an error, if the error is null, we report this error and basically we close our application. And after this, we close the connection with the DB. After this, we want to create a table because creating a model, we don't automatically create the table. We don't want in this case to create the table manually. We would like the application to create the table the first time that we run this application. In this case, I think I'll just do this. Okay, so we basically execute a raw query. Some people like it, some people don't like it. We will do different approaches on this channel. Basically, we create a table if not exists with the user with an ID, which is a serial. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we'll not provide this number, a name and an email as plain text. And if we have an error, we just return this error. After this, we need a router. We need to hit some different endpoints. And in this case, we will use this max or mux framework. I don't know if it's pronounced max or mux. So this is the router, and we can have here. Probably, if you know what an API call is, you'll understand here what's gonna happen. Let me take this one. So when we'll hit /API /go/users, of course, on the IP of the backend with a GET request, I want to get all the users. I want to return an array, a list of users. So I told you that we will have 5 different functions. Why 5 and not 4? We are basically doing CRUD operations. So create, read, update, and delete. So why 5? 5 because I want 2 different functions to handle getting a single user or multiple users. You can also do this in different ways. In this case, we have this one, which is to create a user. And you see the endpoint is the same, /API /go/users. But here we do a GET request to get all the users. With a post, we'll create a user. Then we want to make one to get a single user. You see this ID. It's useful because we want to get that single user. And then we need one to update a specific user and one to delete the user. Okay. And the IDE is complaining because these functions, they don't exist yet. Please give me a break. Give me one moment. We also want to do something else. Here we want to do some additional. Here we want to do also handle the courts problem, and we also want to return and handle the request and response as in JSON format. How can we do this? Basically, we want to wrap the router with course and JSON functionalities. Let me show you here. So we want to wrap this router with course and JSON content. Check here, okay. So we want to enable this this router, okay, like this. So enhance the router, and we do this like this. Moment, maybe it's not correct. Moment, let me check 1 second. Maybe it's not correct. No, it's like this. I think this is correct. Let me check here. I think this is correct. Moment. Let me check. Okay. One moment. Okay. So let's wrap this router with course here. And then in case we want to log, and then we can start the server here. Start the server like this. Okay. Nice. Okay. After this, we want to also create these two functions, the enable course and the JSON content type middleware. So let's do it. We have this function like this. Here, this is to enable the course. The course is to avoid this problem. Basically, you can't access different machines from different IPs, sometimes even on the same machine. It's a way to have safety in the internet, I would say. But in this case, we want to remove this issue. So I'll take this here, and of course, no worries, I'll explain. So this is the function enable course. So we want to set some headers. We want to add some headers in the request and in the response. Here we want to allow any origin. This is very important. And also we want to define. We want to allow some methods. An HTTP request usually has a method, which are get, post, put, and delete, and also options. And also we can add this header with content type. We don't really need authorization. I think we can just get rid of this one. Okay, it will be useful in the future. We're not using authorization here. And then we want to add this in case we have this option in the method. And then we can just create another function below, and this function will be used to handle objects with in JSON format. So here in this one, below this one, let me check here. We have this other function. This function is basically, you see here, we have this handler, and we set as a header content type application JSON. I wanted to make two different functions because I think it's clear. This could also have been done in the same function, but I want to separate the two concepts. Nice. Now we can get all the users. Those are basically called usually controllers. We want to do something when we hit a specific endpoint. Let me show you. Here, for example, we'll start with the get all users, because I like it. So basically now we are writing this one. So we are writing the function that will be called when our final users of the application will hit /API/go/users with a get request. We'll see this very soon. So to get all the users, we can start with this. So we get the users. I don't trust GitHub Copilot, so I'm gonna use mine here. I want to close this. Okay, let me close this function. And here we want to add to create this function. I'll copy, and then we'll explain everything line by line. Okay, I prefer this approach. You might like it or not. So we make this select from users. If you're a SQL expert, you know what is happening here. We are getting users from a table, and then we get these rows, which is a list of all the users, basically. Then we create an array of users, and we go line by line here with this rows.scan method with an ID, name, email, as we see here, and we are inserting all the users, user equal append users with this u, which is this one, this u, inside. So basically at the end we'll have a list of users, which can also be null. In this case, we'll have an empty array. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, let's get the user by ID. So this is in case we want to take only a single user. So we'll have this function here. Let me take this here. So this is a function to get a single user. And here we'll go like this. So we'll return this function. And you see here, the Max or Mux framework, it's getting the ID, it's getting the number at the ID at the end of the request. So here it's happening the magic, and without a framework this might be very hard. I say this from a personal perspective. If you ever tried to parse an URL and getting an ID at the end, it's not that easy, it's very complicated. So after this, we do a select star from users and we get a single user. I think it's this query row, and we return this single user. Now, to create a user, here, we need to create another function. The syntax is very similar for all these functions in Go. So here, we want to create this user. How can we create a user? We need to make a post request, but in this case, we need to provide a body. This is why I do the post request usually after. So we can return this function, and we see here we have this r, which stands for request, .body.decode. So this does mean that when we will do a post request in a JSON format, we'll pass a name and email, we will do an insert. Read here, insert into users, name and email, values 1 and 2. So basically it's inserting the name and email. You see, this is very important. You see here we are not passing the ID. We are returning the ID. We will see this. When we sign up for something, we don't know our progress, our incremental, when we sign up for something like a marathon, a challenge, we don't get the number, but the organizers will give us, hey, you are number 10. Okay, so we are using the same approach here. But when we'll get back the whole user with also the ID. We'll see this in 5 minutes, hopefully, if I don't mess up. The two more functions. One is to update the user. This is usually the most complicated one, because here we need to do multiple things. We need the ID of the user we want to modify. We need the body to pass the new values. So let me get this here and explain. So let's read here. We return this and we define this user from the body. So we are still getting a body. It's very similar to this one. To be honest, you can also achieve this with a single function. I prefer to have different functions because maybe you want to do different things when you update. We get this ID from the URL, we will see this of course, and then read this update users set name and email, where ID is this third parameter, which is this one, the ID. So we want to update, I don't know, the user number 2, of course, if it does exist, and then we try to modify this. Otherwise, we'll return an error. This error might be improved. The project is open source, so you can also improve this piece of code. Also, now I want to do something here. I want to return the updated user. This is not necessary, to be honest, because we can also return just a string with user updated. But when we will do the front end, we want that when we update the user, the UI is refreshed automatically. We could also do this by refetching all the users, but that could be a bit heavy, let's say, for the application. So in this case, we want to return the user with the same ID, the new name and the new email in the response. So we'll see this with Postman and also with Next.js later. last function, we're almost done, hopefully, with the backend. We also, of course, we still need to do the Dockerization. We can delete a user. Usually the delete is one of the easiest, if not the easiest function, because basically we want to just make a delete request with an ID. Those functions are very similar. They seem complicated, but if you check, they have many things in common here. So you see here, for example, is how we get an ID. You see here we get the ID. And then first we select the user, and then if the user that does exist, we delete it. Otherwise, we will not, basically we return an error because the user was not found. We are trying to, to delete a user number 1000 that doesn't exist in the database. This error handling could also be improved. I left a comment. If you want, feel free to improve this one if you find some problems. And our goal here is to focus on the connection between the services. So this code, it's usable, but it's not still production ready, I would say. Nice. I want to do a pause, 1 minute, and then we can Dockerize the application. Let's see if we find someone. I'll give some membership. I hope you are understanding everything. Let's see. Nice. 30 people, love it. Oh, nice. Yes, I know, Henok. I'm sorry for the Italian accent. That's me, you spot me. I'm trying my best to hide my accent, but it's very hard to get rid of the Italian accent. Try my best. I'm sorry. Some people like it. Some people don't. It's okay. Nice. Okay. Okay, so we also give the one a membership, and now we can keep going. Nice. Moment. Thank you, Baba. No, thank you. We will talk about this later, because this is very important to really be yourself on social media. Okay. Okay, now we need to Dockerize this Go application. How can we do it? We already created the go.docker file. So let's go on the go.docker file. And let's type this very simple Docker file. Docker file is a file to Dockerize your application. So we can use the official Golang image. If you want to know more about Docker files, I created multiple videos about that. Here we'll focus on the Dockerization of this Golang application, okay? 1.16-3. I want to use the same exact version because I'm sure that if I use the same version, if I have an error, it's not because of the version of Go, but it's because probably I messed up with a typo in some controller. That's way more likely than Go messing up with the programming language. So, as a work dir, we can have a /app. Is a directory inside the file system of the image, and then we copy everything. Copy ... We copy everything which is here inside the Docker image, and then we can download and install the dependencies. And here we can do like this. Of course, this is a comment. Run. We can run any command we want when we are building an image. So go get -d -v. This is a way to install the dependencies. And then we can build. We are building the application. And then we can build the Go app. Usually I add this comment so GitHub Copilot it wakes up. Run go build -o. And then here we can just have API dot. We build the API module, which is this one, module API. Let's go back here. And then we can expose a port. We'll run this service on port 8000. Let me check the port, if it was correct. Yes, it seems correct. And final line is a cmd1 dot dash. ./API. We should be done. Now we should create another service in the Docker Compose file. Here we can call this service GoUp. And then as a container name, we can have GoUp as an image. Doesn't matter, but let's put GoUp 1.0.0. Will not push into Docker Hub in this case. And then as a build here, this can look a bit different of what you usually see in Docker Compose files. We can have this because we have this compose.yaml file, and then we'll have two folders. So the Docker file is not, in this case, in the same folder, in the same path as the compose.yaml file. It's in another folder, and also the name of the Docker file is not Docker file. When I have more than one Docker file in a project, I always call them, I don't call them Docker file in different folders. That's very risky. As environment variable, we have just one environment variable, which is the database URL. Here, okay? This line, Postgres. So this is the real Postgres. This is the user of the database. This is the password of the database, and this is the database itself. I'm sorry, I used Postgres for all three of them because I don't want to mess up. I'm sure that if I put Postgres everywhere, it works. Probably it's not a good idea to have this in a production environment. As a port, we can have 8000. Let's see, the Copilot is smart. Yes, like this. And then depends on, it means that this service will run after database. Database is already up and running, so we don't really need this depends on. Now the hard part. Let's try to do Docker Compose build, and let's see if I made some mistake. Now let's build it. Docker Compose build. And now we'll see. Okay, first problem. Let's see what's the issue here. Okay. Nice. I don't know what is this. GoUp internal, load metadata for Docker. Transferring context. Let's see what's the issue here. Backend, go Docker, transferring context. So it seems that it's not reading the file. I know why. Okay, I know what's the issue. The problem here is that this go Docker file should not be here, but no, this is correct. Okay. Nice, this didn't start in the correct way. Let's see if I can understand what's going on here. Work there, because it's not helping much here. Let's see. GoUp internal, load metadata for Docker.io library Golang. Pull token for registry. I think the problem might be, let's see, what can be? Container name, backend. Interesting. Context and Docker file. Load Docker ignore. We don't have a Docker ignore. Transferring context. Let's check the Docker file here. Golang, because we don't. It's not very clear from here. But let's see. Work dir, copy, go get, go build, expose the port and CMD. This seems correct. Okay. Load metadata for Docker.io. Let's see if you see something odd, but it's a bit harder to help me. You be my dude always. No, I don't think we need to be that. First of all, let me see if Docker is up and running. Yes, Docker is up and running. Okay. Now the thing is that here we don't see. No, it's easy. I'm sure that it's this one. It's in the name of this Golang. Is the name of this? I think it's this one. No, it was correct. Fail to solve. Maybe it's not this one. Let's see. I know what happened. because you need to run this not from the backend, but from here. We need to run it. We need to run the Docker Compose not from the backend. I think it's this, but I'm not sure. So from the root level, so where the Docker Compose is, you can do Docker Compose build. Let's see. No, it was not this one. Run go get. Okay, now we have a different error. Run go get -d -v. It didn't like this one. Why? Let's see. Package. Okay. Let's see. -v. Okay. Did not complete it successfully. But run go get. So everything is in the backend file. Let me check here what can be the issue. We didn't start very well today. It's okay, we will make it. Run, because we need to copy, then run, and then build. Package database does not exist. This can be because I made a typo here. Okay, so here there is a typo on line 4. I'll probably edit this part. Let's see, if it's just typos, it's okay. Third try. Thank you so much for helping me. Love it. I don't care. It's okay. It was only the typo. Okay, let's see. Now let's try to run this application. So, I mean, if it's only that one, amazing. Docker Compose up -d go up. Let's see. I'm sorry, Juan. Let's see. Okay, so we did the Docker Compose up -d go up. And first of all, let's try here Docker ps-a. So it seems that both of the services are up and running here. Usually the first thing I try here, let's try to do \dt. And you see that here now, there is something here. So instead of did not find any relations, we have a table. We have this public users table. So if I do select star from users, we have 0 rows, but check it out. ID, name, email. The table is there. Really, that's great. How this happened? Because when we run this container for the first time, we got on line 30, and this created the table. If you're using an ORM, this is done automatically synchronizing the schema. In this case, we have to do something very raw and low level, but it works. Now let's try to create some users. And to do this, I'll use some people in the chat. So if you type me your name now, I will use your name to create the users. Before doing this, I want to search. So let's try to get all the users. You see here, we have an empty array. So if we go on localhost 8000/API/go/users, we have an empty list. I see many people here. They want to be remembered forever. So let's add them in order. Name. Okay. Wow. So Gustavo. And an email. We can have, oh my god, Gustavo@mail. Let's see if I can manage to insert Gustavo here. So we need to make a post request here. Let's see. Hit send. And check it out, this is very important. We made a post request with a name and email. But as in the response, we get not just Gustavo and mail with name and email, but we also get the ID. So Gustavo, you are number 1 in this database, of course. Let's find someone else. You can also add Charles. Okay, another post request, and we have Charles here. We have also William. Soon we will have this on the front end of the Next.js application. So if you stick around for more time, you will see also this. Raushan. I hope I spelled this correctly. Raushan here, and also an email. And I think that's it. Okay. Send. Okay, so we made 4 inserts. If now we go and try to get all the users here, we see the 4 users. So we have these 4 users here. We can also check this out by going on localhost 8000/API/go/users. I have an add-on here, and you can see here, this is a GET request. A browser can do a GET request. To do a POST request, of course, you need a framework, a way to do this. But you can see here the four users. I also want to update a user. So, for example, the ID 3, William, we can change the email and adding as an email Saurabh. No. As an email, Saurabh. Okay, no, I want to change only the email. So the name can still be William for the number 3, and I can add this here. Change. Let's just do this. To update a user, we can add, for example, a new in front of this one. A new William. To change, let's say the user which is as an ID as a 3. So put request API/go/users and then 3. We want to change the user number 3. Okay, put. And we have this new user, okay? Just one moment. I'm not using Node.js or Next.js because I've already made it multiple times on this channel. I made with Next.js 1, with Node.js 3, 2 or 3 times. So that's the thing. Minimalistic full stack app, it means that I will be focused on the connections between the services. So the focus of this application is here on the Docker Compose file when we'll have multiple services connecting each other. That's the core idea. This is a series when I use different technologies and connect all the services. Probably to understand what I'm doing, you need to check at least 2 of these videos. When I'm focused not on the logic, in the future I can do more, but I'm connected in how can I connect a Go application with a Postgres database and a Next.js app. That's the core idea of this live stream. Okay, so it worked. The backend is done. Amazing. Cool. Of course, I'll push this to GitHub at the end. I think I'll take a break of 1 minute and then we'll keep going. Almost 50 people. Love it. Thank you. I will give the 1 membership now because I'm very happy. And then we'll write the front end in Next.js very, very soon. I hope that was clear. MX664. Again, if you're here for the first time, probably it's okay. Let's see. James Foreman. I'm Unix. Nice. So, just as a recap, I reached 20K on YouTube 2 days ago. I'm doing this live stream when I code live. At the end of this, we will do a party, basically, when I'll give away memberships. You can ask me anything you want. You can introduce yourself and so on. Okay? Eluchan, thank you so much. West didn't win. But at the end, I'll gift way more. So now I'm just warming up. At the end of this coding part, we'll have a fun part, and I really want to enjoy, let's say, this end of 2023. Okay, but we're not done yet. We still have the front-end part, which for a DevOps guy is the worst possible thing. Okay, nice. A moment. Let's go here. I'm really happy, by the way. Thank you so much for coming here. Really, really, you made me happy. Okay, nice. So now we need to create a front-end to actually see something. We can't just use Postman. We can't let our user to use Postman. So where were we? Here. Okay, nice. Let's go here. Okay. So now let's create the front end for this application. So we are at the root level, and here we can create a Next.js application. We can create a Next.js application using this command. You can tell me in the chat how familiar you are with Next.js. If you are a pro, if you are a beginner, if you never used it. In this case, we are using Next.js 14 with this create next app latest, and we're using this option, no git. The reason is that Next.js, by default, it creates a git repository and a .git ignore. The problem is that here we already have a git repository at the root level, at this full stack go live. So we'll have full stack and then a folder with backend and a folder with frontend. We don't want a git repository inside another git repository. No. So let's create this. And we can call this project, which is inside this folder, frontend. Here it makes sense because we are inside a folder called full stack go live. Check the structure at the top right soon. TypeScript, yes. slint, yes. Tailwind CSS, yes. src directory, yes. Upper router for now, no, because I'm sure that it doesn't, because I'm sure it works without that. And customize the default import alias, no. And this might take a while. After this, we need to install just one dependency. Maybe I can check the here. Next.js is a powerful framework. Never used Next.js. Do you use Kubernetes or just Docker? Here we use just Docker. I made a Kubernetes video. I kinda love Kubernetes, Docker, and all the DevOps stuff, but probably at some point I might start doing the whole process. So now, because I made a series focused on the backend, this series also includes a front end. In the future, I might also create a Kubernetes cluster for these 3 services and then deploy them in one go. So that's probably will happen in some months. So this is what is still in my head. So no, I don't use PM. I just use something that works. In this case, I just use npm. Nice. I know Next.js, latest one with upper router and server action. Yes, I'll also step into that part, but use TypeScript very less. Yes, it's interesting. For me, it's interesting to understand which technologies you are using more and also what you want the videos more. By the way, okay, so it created a front-end folder. You can see this here at the top with a lot of stuff inside. So we step into this folder and we need to install just one dependency. In this case, npm install Axios. Axios is a famous npm package to make HTTP requests. And now I want to do something. I want to run this server. npm run dev. Here, let's go. Let's see. I want to go in this other format, like this. I need this here. Let's go on localhost 3000. And you should see a Next.js application here on my right. Yes. Okay. I'll probably keep coding like this so you can see the application coming alive while I'm coding. Okay. Nice. Let's start coding our Next.js application. The first thing I want to do is to make a small change for the styles, the global styles. I want to remove these lines from 11 to 17 because I noticed that I have some issues with Tailwind. I have like white text on white form, so let's remove it. If you can find a way to fix it, make a PR, but this is I'm focused here on the functionality, of course. So this was the small change. Now, in the front-end folder, specifically in the src folder, which stands for source, we can create another folder called components. here. And then here we can create two files. One file will be called card component.tsx. I hope I spelled that correctly. And another one called user interface.tsx. So we created two files. Now let's start from the card component. A card component is something that will represent a user on the front end. We'll have, those rectangles to basically visualize a user, a single user. We can import React. What's happened? Let's try it again. We can import React from React, and then we can create this sort of interface. Usually I call this card, you can call it whatever you want, not title and text, but ID, number, name string, and email string. It's a similar format compared to the database one. And now we can create our component. To create our component, we can just do this. So we have this, let me close it. We can have this card component, this react.fc. Let's start with this. I can export this default card component. We'll see this soon, but I need a couple of more minutes to set this up. Now, this already works, so this will show a name and email. I want to just change it because I made some styling here, and I want to, instead of having just a name and email, use some styling with Tailwind CSS and having something like this. So we have this. So we have this with a shadow, some colors, some bold, different sides of the font, and so on. We will see this soon. Now let's go on the user interface. A user interface is basically a component that will represent this whole service. So let's go here on the user interface component. Let's start with the import. Let me go like this. As an import, we have React, useState, useEffect, Axios to make the HTTP request, and that card component. This component will need the card component. Then we can have another interface here. In this case, I will call it user because we are actually creating a user. I call this card component because so it's more reusable for other projects. And then we can have, I want to have a backend name. We are connecting this front end with a backend. So here we are. So here we'll pass a string called go. So this will be clear very soon. So we have this interface with this backend name. This will be go. Okay, will be like this. And then we can have this one, which is const user interface here, which is the the component. Let me close it and let me also export before I forget. And here we can have some constants here. Let me read them. I hope you can see. We have the API URL, which is the default API that we want to hit when we make some requests. In this case, this will be the local host, but this in the future can also be another service deployed somewhere. Then with the use state, we want this to handle the forms, basically. We want when we type on the form to create a new user or to update a user, we want this to be, let's say, to change as soon as we type new lines. Then I want to do something else. I want to define some style for this backend. We Go as this like teal or light blue theme. So let's do this. Let's define these styles based on the backend name. Here. Let's define this style based on the backend name. So we can have this constant. Wait. Here. So as a background color, we can have this BG Shan, I don't know how to pronounce it, and then we can have these button colors. So the buttons will also be similar. We will see this very, very soon. Also, I don't want my app to crash if I don't pass any backend name. Okay. Yes. And so I want to be sure that this will not crash our application. So in case I forget to pass something, at least this will be a gray component without any color. I don't want my application to crash because of CSS issues. Now I want to build this front end block by block. So this will be, I think, more interactive than writing the whole thing. So I want to fetch the user, and in this case I'll use this function here. Let me get it here. So we want to fetch all the users. So we fetch the data. Can you see this one? Response await axios.get. This is a GET request. API URL is the URL that we want to hit, /API /backend name. This will be go /users. So this will be the same as doing a GET request like this. A GET of all the users. Is the service still up and running? Yes. We have, by the way, we still have the backend with the database up and running under the hood. So maybe we can even make this request. We can create the front end while the database is up and running in the backstage, in the back. Okay. Also, I want to tell you something here. Maybe you noticed something here. We have the set users response.data.reverse. I want to do something. I want that the latest users I add will be on top. Okay, just a UI thing, but it's useful for tutorial purposes. It's useful for tutorial purposes. It's useful for tutorial purposes and just to show that we can display something which is not exactly how the database looks like. Of course, here we can do many different things. Now, let's go here and below here, we want to return these users. So let's do this return function. We want to display these users, I would say. And here we want to start creating some styling. We want to create a sort of HTML. So let me see here. Okay, so we have, I think that we should, let me do this again. This is a bit messy. Let's do this clean so it's easier. 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Okay, so let's add something here. Let's add one line, for example. We can have this div. We can return a single element, but of course we'll have something else inside here, like this. Okay, so we return this single element. Inside this element, we can have more elements. For example, here we can have, let's try just test, for example. Okay, let's just try this. Now I want to go on the index.tsx files because I want to see something. Okay, I want to go on the index.tsx here. Let's remove everything here, which is basically showing this on my back. So this should be maybe to return an error now, of course. And now we can here import React and the user interface. We want to use the user interface as a component in the index.tsx file. And here we can have this element, this function. We can have this function. Moment, okay, which is basically this. And let's see, if I do this, we can return home, export default. We can export default home here. This is something is showing up. I'm excited. As a DevOps guy, I'm excited. Now let's change this a bit. I want to change this, but you see we have a user interface with as a backend name Go, and this color, it's dynamic. You can have multiple user interfaces with different colors, and I'll have it in the future. So, but let me change this just a little bit. So just to add some Tailwind CSS classes, basically we have this thing. I love this. This is a lot. It's an achievement for me. So we have a index.tsx file with a user interface inside it. We are not using the card component yet, but we will do this very soon. Now, let's go back on the user interface. User interface.tsx. Nice. So you see here we have test. If we put hello, you should have hello here. Okay, so basically what you see here is what I type here. Of course, this is a bit dumb, just putting this hello. It's a bit an overkill, I would say. So let's try to do something that makes sense. I want to do a couple of things here. The first, let me check. I want to add an image. Let's add this soon. So I want to add this, an image, which we don't have. So we have this, which basically say broke our UI. And this image also depends on this backend name. Below, we can have this h2. Basically, we want to return the name of the backend here. Let me show you here. h2 class name. We have some Tailwind CSS styling, and we have a backend with capital letter, and then we slice by one. We take only the first one, and you see here, go backend. Okay, it's a bit ugly. You see here, go backend, but this is not just a string. We are passing basically here the backend name, which is this string, and we are passing this string from the index.tsx. If I put here JavaScript, what will happen? You see, everything is broken here, and I can see JavaScript, but the blue is gone, because the blue is because I selected an existing service. In this case, we only have Go, but just to give you an idea, we put this Go, and here in the interface, we are selecting a style. You see, I could have multiple styles. I'll do this very soon. Not today, of course. Okay, nice. So let's go now here and let's fetch these users. So here we can display these users. Let's see if we can see these users. So display users, sysplay, display users, and we can have this. It's basically a div with some styling. I'll show you. Okay, and we have this one. So we have this user mapped with some styling. We have a small error here, we'll see why. And we have this, but let's check it out. What is this? Wait. What is this? New William, Russia, Charles, Gustavo. We are already fetching the users from the front end. See, you remember this. If you've been following, you know what I'm talking about. This is not an array. This is already fetching from the backend. This is already connected to the backend. I'm not using Docker, by the way. Now, we have this delete user, and of course there is a mistake because this delete user function does not exist. So I'll do what any good developer should do when you have an error. You comment the error. Error gone. Love it. Okay, I want to do a couple of things here. Before I do the other functionalities, I want to change this because this really hurts my feelings, this Go logo. So how can we do this? Let's check this here. Image src / a backend name logo. So this does mean that this fetches a gologo.svg file inside this project. So how can we add this? We can do this in multiple ways. I'll do this in a more visual way so you can see. We can open this in the Explorer, this public folder, and here we can move a file inside this public folder. I think it's this one. No, public folder here. Here in the public folder. Let me grab it. This is probably one of the hardest part of the whole live stream. Okay, so I have this Go logo here. You see, of course, this will be in the GitHub repository, no worries. But you can put, of course, anything you want. I put this Go logo here. Okay, Again, this could be done in different ways. I refresh. And you see now I see this Go logo. So basically this image here is fetching this public Go logo file inside. Very cool and also very reusable, I would say. Nice. Let's create now one. Let's see. Now let's see if I can create a user directly from here. So create a new user. We need a function, of course, to create this user, and an interface, a UI, I would say. So to create a user, how can we do this? Let's start typing here. So create a user, of course now it's complaining. And we want also to prevent the default behavior of the browser. So we have this create user here, and we can just, it's very simple, the create user, okay? Here we are doing this. Let me see if you can see. So we have this response, axios.post, API URL /API/ this is go /users. This is basically the same as we did with Postman before. We also have this set users, set new users, because we want to have an interactive form, I would say. Now, this is not enough. This is just a function. We need the UI to create this. To create a user. Create a user here. Okay, I don't trust GitHub Copilot, so I'll use mine that I made with some effort, of course, being a DevOps guy. So we have this form. Check here at the top right here. I add this form. You see here, check this line. Okay, this is the form of the user. So what do we have here? We need three things. We need two inputs and a button. So here in the form, we can add this input with a placeholder, a value, on change and class name. Check here on the right. We have this name, and here I can also type. And this is, of course, the form it's updated while I type. Nice. Also, we need an email. Usually GitHub Copilot here it's smart, almost smart. It's basically the same. We have also this name with an email here below. And below this, we can have a button. I want to get mine here. So we have this button, you see, type submit with some class names for basically when you hover, it's a different color. See, when you hover, you have a different color. Does it work or not? Will it work or not? Let's see if you're in the chat. Drop a name. Let's see if we can add a new user like this, like with this form that we created with Next.js in the background. Let's see who has been fast, I would say. JavaScript is love, Rajnish. Dilkush, and as an email we can put dilkush@mail. Okay, I don't know if this will work because we made this. If I click here, you see, there we go. Dilkush is here. Is this just a UI because I'm doing Next.js? Let's check. Let's check with the database here. Select star from users. Dilkush is you are in the database for real, and you are the user number 5. Okay, nice. I prefer to do this bottom up. When we are writing forms, everything is already prepared. Okay? Nice. We need just 2 more things, and then we can finally, I think, celebrate for a while. So we need to update. Now we need a function to update a user. We're almost done. Update a user. Let's go back here. We need the function to update the user. And usually this is one of the most complicated one. So, update the user, of course, it's complaining. Just give me literally 5 seconds. And then here, check here at the, no, not yet. Now we need to create the function, sorry. So we need to prevent the default and basically do this. I'll show you, and of course I'll explain line by line. So we have this, we have this function, so we prevent the default. Check this out. They look complicated, but they're all the same. Axios.put, we do a put request on API/go/users/ we need to provide an ID. So in this case, we will need to provide the ID of the user we want to update with a name and email. And then we do this, we call this set update user to basically reset the form. We want to reset the form, okay? And also, after we update a user, we want to refresh. We want the UI to be immediately updated with the new user. Let's see if we can do it. So, I would say below this add new user, I can create another form. So, update user. And here we have something similar. But in this case, we will have 3 different for inputs plus the button. So check this rectangle here below the add user. This will be our update user input. So let's check them. This is very similar to the create one, of course, but not exactly the same. We can see here, I should add the title here, okay. But here we have user ID. This is something else. Check it. Let's put this here. User, this is the ID, then this is the name, the new name, I would say. I want to update someone. Soon I'll also ask for a name, of course, to update someone. And here we need the email. So we want the new user, new name and new email. And then, of course, we need a button. This is the button here below. It's a bit different. You see here the style is a bit different. It's green. Okay, just to have something which is a bit different. We are building this very simple UI, but it's cool. So instead of having, let's change this. I don't know, this ID 3. I'm sorry, William. You're gonna sacrifice for the community. So ID 3. So this one, I'll show you here. Check the ID number 3, new William. I want to update it again, and the name, it will be subscribe, and the email, it will be get membership@mail. I'm sending subliminal messages. If you subscribe, you might get a membership very soon. Let's try to update the user here. You can see, click this button, and you see here, subscribe, get a membership. So I'm using the update function right now. It already works. Let's check it here. Select start again. You see, in the database, we have the subscribe. Just one more, and then Dockerization, and we are done. Below here, last function here, delete a user. Usually, deleting a user is not that complicated, I would say. So we have this function, const delete user. And inside this, we want to do something very simple. Very simple. A delete request, and then we filter the user. So the user will also disappear from the UI. We don't want to refresh the UI. We want the user to disappear. So we just need now to delete a user. But what about the UI? Do you remember that at the beginning of this UI, I commented these 3 lines? Let's try to uncomment now. You see, now we have this delete user button again. But does it work, or is it just a UI thing? Let's try to remove Dilkush. I'm sorry, Dilkush. Click here. I want to check again. Go. You see here we have Gustavo, Charles, Russian. Dilkush is the ID 5. Let's click delete. It's gone from the UI. And also from the DB. If I try to search again, it's not there anymore. We deleted also a user. So the front end is done. The only thing is missing is the Dockerization of the Next.js application. Now I'm going to check because I want people to literally scream, don't do that, use Vercel. Come on, don't disappoint me. I'm Dockerizing a Next.js application. Best way to get engagement in live streams. I'm Dockerizing a Next.js application. You can't! I actually can. I'm about to do it now. I gift a membership. You should prove yourself worthy. So first of all, let's stop this service. Okay. Not working anymore. Now, how can I Dockerize a Next.js application? Can I, or I should not? To Dockerize this application, we need to do multiple things. Okay, so there are just 3 things that we should do. Let me check. First time here. Alok, welcome. This should be illegal. Nice start. Come on. But now I'll show you something that might shock you. Do you think that Vercel has a template for a Docker file or not? I will not write my own Docker file here because I'm lazy. So we are in the front-end file. Let's Dockerize this application. Let's see if Vercel will help us or not. So let's create a file called. So let's Dockerize this Next.js application. It's a bit weird, but I'll show you that it's actually doable. Touch.dockerignore and also a file called next.dockerfile. In the Docker file, where is the Docker file? In the .dockerignore, I want to add the node modules. Okay, I don't want to copy the node modules folder here. Okay, and now the Docker file. Let's see, where is that? I'll show you something cool. I want to know how many people know this. What is this? I am on GitHub vercel/next.js. So you see, this is a Vercel GitHub repository. I can deploy with Vercel. I can deploy with Docker. They are so kind. I love people from Vercel. They gave us a Docker file. What is this? A Docker file by Vercel. Interesting. What if I just copy paste it and just use this as a Docker file? Click. Then I go here. And in the next.docker file, I just do Control or Command B. Bam. That's it. This is not just npm run dev. Here we are doing a full-fledged build, but will it work or not? I didn't write it, so probably this would work. Before we end we also need a service for Next.js. So let's call it the next app. And here we can have a container name, next app. No. Next app. As image, we can call it the next app 1.0.0. And as a build, something similar of what we did before. So build as a context front end, Dockerfile, the next.dockerfile. We want this to be here. I also need an environment variable. I'll show you here below the ports, for example, we can have this environment variable. I'll show you where this is. So as environment here, next public API. So check this next public API URL. This is used here. Process.m next public API URL. So you can also define this from the outside. Okay. Now the final thing, Docker. Let's see. I'm doing something wrong, but on purpose. Docker compose build. Let's see. I don't stream on Twitch. Ehi, Apiche Adidas. Let's see if we get an error. We should get an error. We will get an error. Nice, nice, nice. Cool. Bam. Error. Calculate, up, next, standalone. Do you know what? Because Next.js is an amazing framework, but they want you to deploy on Vercel because this is where they get money. Makes sense. But if I want to just get the code, say like, okay, just give me the code, I'll do the rest. Do they allow this or not? They should do it, and they do it. This is also why I still support Vercel. I love it. In the next.config.js file, and this is not just for Docker, but let's say if you want to deploy it on your own, doing your own npm run build, here in the next.config.js file, you can use as an output standalone. That means leave me alone, basically. Let's try again. So in next.config.js, docker compose build again. If this does work, I'll spin up the Next.js app using Docker. I'll do a final test, and we will be done. It's taking a while. Let's see. Nice. Sup, guys? Hello, Fran. First time. Love it. Thank you so much. We have more than 30 people. Nice. Cool. Cool. Done. Done. Now I do docker compose app -d next app. Will it work? Bam. If I go here, another tab, docker compose, docker ps-a, I see 3 services. This is promising. And if I refresh here, bam, the service is up and running, but this time with Docker. Now, will it work or not? Let's try to create a new user, for example. Next Docker, email, next Docker. I call it next Docker because this does mean a. Next now is running inside a Docker container. Mail, check here, above the subscribe button, subscribe user, we have the next Docker thing. So this does mean that we are doing the same exact thing, but we are using the Next.js application that is running inside a Docker container. Cool. We can also try to delete one as a final test. For example, we can delete Roshan here, ID4, delete user. The ID4 should be deleted from the database. Let's try this again. Select the star, and we see ID4 is no more there. And we have this next Docker at email, just below the subscribe to get membership. Done. Bravo.